Hello and welcome to this Fallout 4 settlement tour. This is XtremeWackazoid and today we're looking at Somerville Place. This is on the PS4. I'm using a number of mods which are listed below. Somerville Place is a large build area with some terraced hills and a farm. And this is one of the few locations where I actually built a fortress to surround the location. I think in real life if I did live in a wasteland I probably would build a fortress. But in terms of the gameplay, there's a number of locations where the attackers will actually spawn into the build area. So a fortress doesn't do you much good in those situations. And also, yes, an attacker couldn't get into this fortress, but my settlers can't really get out. And so when there is an attack, that means I pretty much have to fly solo while my settlers are all trying to find the door to get out. But I did want to actually do a couple of different locations with the fortress just because it's fun, and so this is one of them. And so I'll take you inside and hopefully this will give you a few ideas of what you can do with the space. And what I actually did here was I built some wooden shack platforms going all the way across and then all the way down and then all the way across, just in this kind of square. And then I put these junk fence walls all the way up against the edge of those wooden shacks, and then I got rid of the wooden shacks. So that sounds kind of tedious, but what I wanted to do is to make sure that it is actually square, that it actually does more or less go in a straight line. And so I did a pretty good job of that. I didn't want to build these junk fences and then realize that they weren't going to match up at the end. And so with these junk fences, I use the select all trick with the concrete pillar. And if you do that, you can kind of sink these junk fences into the wall, into the floor. And so that way they can look like they're actually built into the ground. So one of the first things I do when I build is I decide where I'm going to put my power source. I typically put it up high, and I definitely surround it with a barrier. And so my power source is in there, surrounded by these wooden walls. And so I do that because that way attackers, they definitely will go after your power source, and so that keeps it pretty well protected. So up in here I have a number of vendor stands, and it's all wood. I typically use a lot of wood. I think it's more realistic that the settlers just got some scrap and actually built with it. And so here's these tier 3 vendors. Gave them all the same outfits. It's these farmer outfits, I believe, and I do that because it looks kind of creepy. And I gave them ballistic weave in their clothings and their hats as well. And so I usually put together like a shelf of items, and I do that by building the shelf and then raise out in an open space and then raise and lower it with a concrete pillar select all trick, and I place items with the OCDecorator mod. So with my clothing vendor, same deal. I put clothing there so it looks like they're actually selling something. And with the clinic vendor, I gave them lab coats so it looks like they're a real doctor. And I use these ceiling fan lights to keep the area cool. There's minigun turrets and heavy laser turrets, and I like to keep them kind of up high so that they have a good vantage point and that they'll be protected from melee attackers for the most part. I have a couple water pumps here. There's the manual water pumps, and I do that in case the electricity ever glitches out. And so they're growing corn and mute fruit. I typically just grow mute fruit, but since they were already growing corn, I figured I would stick with that. And so I'll take you inside the original residence, and all I did here was put a number of beds and some shelving unit, and so I cleared the place out with scrap that settlement. And so along here are my other residences, and so I wanted it to look kind of like sharecropper farming. Again, it's a lot of different materials of wood and metal, and so they each have their own little space in here. A 1x2 space with a bed and usually like to put like a duffel bag or something underneath the bed so it looks like they have a go bag. And then some other kind of container inside. So I won't show you every single one because they're pretty much similar. And then over in here I have a restroom area, sort of a latrine area with a sink and a toilet and a shower and a water fountain. And I have that lit up also. And then up above I put a restaurant area. I like to have a restaurant area because the settlers will come and congregate after a hard day's work, and they'll line up and it looks like they're ordering food and then eating food in these picnic tables. And I like to make it look like it's a functioning restaurant with a sink and oven, refrigerator, and I place items with the OCDecorator mod. And this is actually a doorway with a wooden railing, so it looks kind of like an open window. And there's multiple exits out of this restaurant. So hopefully this will give you a few ideas of what you can do with the space. If you like what you see, hit like, and you can subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you.